Okay, here's another comparison where climbers can sort of get on the wrong track in their thinking about what they need to do to complete a move. In this case, what we have is two different climbers trying a very long lateral dyno, and it's a really interesting kind of move. Both these climbers are actually on the right track. There's just a very slight difference in the execution of the move that makes one successful and the other not successful. Um, Let's take a look at the unsuccessful attempt first. I'm going to just scroll through here, and the move starts out very similar in both cases, right? The climbers are far to the right. They've kicked back their leg, and then they begin by throwing the leg forward, stepping, grabbing, and the climber actually makes contact, but can't quite hold it. And the reason why the climber can't hold it is going to be evident when we do the comparison here to the successful burn. Let me get them sunk up. Okay, they're about sunk up. Now let's take a look at the left-hand side of the screen here and watch what Mike does. So first thing we notice is that Mike gets more of an outward rotation. He doesn't start pulling in with his arms until fairly late in the swing, whereas over here the climber actually doesn't get as much rotation. This is over here on the right. Doesn't get that much on rotation, gets a lot of a pull, inward pull, and it actually is doing something that I like in most cases, and that is the climber's moving very quickly, and you can see that the climber on the right is way ahead of the climber on the left. Here's where it gets tricky, though. Let's take a look at the path of the center of gravity. Again, we always want to be looking at what's happening here and here. We're looking at the climber's hips as a shorthand for what the center of gravity is doing in the movement. And as we move through here, we see that when the climber here on the right makes contact with the hold, or is about to make contact with the hold, the center of gravity is pretty far away from the wall. Torso's pretty upright, center of gravity is pretty far away. There's a big space there. Now, let's take a look at what happens over here when the climber is about to make contact. We see a very different scenario. We see almost no space between the climber and the wall. We see the torso, we see the center of gravity, everything's really close into the wall. He's practically bending over the volume to get the hold. So this makes a big difference in what happens next. First of all, it buys, well, let me back up. The first thing it does is it buys that climber time. The purpose of the inward momentum here is to give the climber time to get to the hold, to do that lateral movement they need to do. The second thing is here, watch what happens. Both climbers kick off of the left foot, they get good plantar flexion, but when the center of gravity is out here on the right-hand side, that kick off the left leg actually helps propel the climber away from the wall. Now he's really quite close to getting it. It's only a little bit of a minor adjustment that's going to make the difference between success and failure for this climber. But let's watch this over here. The kick off the left leg is much more in a direction that's appropriate to the move. It's much more straight up. And there's not that much of an outward component to it. I mean, yes, the climber is always going to swing out at the end of a move like this. The question is, how long can the climber keep the center of gravity moving in towards the wall before that swing out begins? So again, when climbers are engaged in this kind of move, they should be thinking about what direction do I actually need to go. They shouldn't be fooled by the fact that those holds are so far to the left. Their first thought should be, okay, I'm going to throw my center of gravity hard into the wall so that I have enough time to make that movement to the left.